Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. My name is Tyler Nethercott. I am our VP of Data and Operations here at Market Movers at Sports Card Investor, and I oversee our Market Movers data platform. I'm really excited about this sort of debut live event. Let's fingers crossed for no technical difficulties. I always know that live streams can be a little bit dicey. So I've got my camera here. I've got my screen here. I'm going to do my best to jump back and forth between screen sharing and talking to all of you. But if you're in the live chat now, thanks for joining. Hopefully we'll get some more people, throughout the hour. But really what I'm planning to do is just kind of open this up. This is the first time we're doing this in a public forum. We've done this a few times before for our members, but we really wanted to open it up to anybody on the public who has questions about market movers, questions about the sports card industry, anything you want to ask tonight. I'm going to primarily prioritize questions about market movers, Q&A, but if there are general sports questions, basically what I'd ask is if you have a question and you want to put it in the chat, just put like a question mark in parentheses or put question before it, just so that it's really easy to call out. Sometimes you can get a lot of chatter and certain questions can get lost. So I want to make sure that I'm really doing a good job answering your questions. But I did get a bunch of questions in before the session tonight. We opened it up. We sent out emails. We put in our Discord chat server. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and jump right into some of those questions. And I'm going to minimize my screen over here with Jeff, who was telling me that I was live, and I will pull up my questions. Okay. So one of the first questions that I had here was any plans on adding more short run sets like Panini Limited, plates and patches, et cetera, to Market Movers tool? It's difficult to find price data for these things, and some of these items can be multi-$1,000 cards potentially. So our goal is to get everything into Market Movers. It always comes down to a question of prioritization. And we have come a really long way in the last year or so, starting out with just like 400 cards in our database. Now we have over 15,000. In the last month, we've added about 5,000 cards. And I'm going to show you, if you have Market Movers, how you can look and see and track those cards as they're being added. But certainly, we wouldn't rule out putting those sets in. We just released an episode on this channel about our popular card charts and popular cards in general within Market Movers and kind of how we define those. So what I would say is really go in and watch that video if you haven't, because it'll kind of break down how we prioritize which cards get into Market Movers and how we think about that. Some of those, sets, they're not the hottest on the market. So if you think about just the term popular, we're not going to ever prioritize those over the bigger sets and making sure that we have all the key players, variations, grades, et cetera, from your Prism, Optic, Select, et cetera. So that's kind of one piece of that. The other piece is some of those sets can be a little bit tricky, depending on the set, to write a really good query if the sellers on eBay, where we get all of our data from right now, don't write very precise queries, or rather eBay listing titles. So sometimes people, I guess we get a lot of messages like they want their NT RPAs in there. They want, patches, autos, things like that. You get a set like, some of these more higher end products that have multiple autograph kind of like inserts within them. And people don't really put the actual like autograph set subset title in their listing. So it makes it nearly impossible to get the data pinned down really accurately. Certainly those cards can be in the thousands or tens of thousands or more. But it can be really tough to get the data, trimmed down precisely enough because the people aren't doing it on eBay. So there's some, kind of conditions there. We continue to explore that. And we actually have some bigger kind of solutioning ideas around that for later this year. So hopefully that answers that question. But we're always going to give priority to the ones that are selling, from a ubiquity perspective, from a broadness in the market, sales volume perspective, those will get first priority over like shorter printed, super rare stuff. So kind of fine tuning that, trying to get more cards added in those other categories for sure though. Second question, is there a way to go back and expand the search history farther than 90 days? If so, how far back can I go? So I will actually screen share for this one. Let me change my config here and make sure that you can see. Okay. I know there's a little bit of a delay on the live stream. So I'm going to wait 1 second here and just kind of queue this up, scroll up, make sure I can see this. Cool. You can all see my screen and you can see me in the little version. I saw that Ziggy's in the chat. Ziggy, thanks for the compliment on my water bottle. You got to stay hydrated. when you are crunching numbers and doing live streams. I'm sure you know that. So I'm going to come over here and show you our popular card charts, and I'll just choose this one. So this is the dashboard, and basically you can save, favorited cards, favorited players, different, searches within popular card charts. You can save chart any card searches, all kinds of things in here. So I'm going to scroll up and I'll just navigate using this quick chart icon out here to see this Fernando Tatis Jr. chart. And then I'll show you how you can change the grade or the date ranges. So date range is actually just up here in this top left corner. You can change it to any specific date range that you want to change it to, but you can also use the little quick dates here. So if you just wanted to see like last 14 days, click that and hit search. And then you get the updated data for this card over the last 14 days. And, you can add in all data, and really that's going to go back. You'll see it's kind of funny. It'll go back to 2000. We don't have data back to 2000. We have data back as far as 2019. And the way that works is you'll get the data 90 days prior to when we added the card to popular card charts. So one thing we don't do is we don't go back and look at other websites, PWCC and other sites to try to add in things manually back to 2008. It's just not something we deem the highest priority or the best investment of time. The market has changed so much since then. It's not to say the historical precedent isn't fascinating and to sort of see their sort of S&P 500 of sports cards and all of that, but we add it in, we pull in 90 days of sales history from eBay. We go through all of those results in these detailed results and make sure that the cards are what they say they are. And then the card's good to go on a rolling basis from there forward and pulls in the updated sales every day. So that's kind of how you change the date range in popular card charts. So I'm going to jump over here and just see next question. Can you add the ability for us to create lines on charts? People use this all the time when looking at stock charts and think it would be helpful. So I've been getting a ton of awesome emails lately, and I've had actually a couple of conference calls, Zoom calls with people, had some email exchanges. I will be the first one to admit I am not like an advanced stockbroker, investor, day trader, anything like that when it comes to the stock market. My expertise is much more in sports cards than it is in stock investing. But there are a lot of you out there who want to bring those principles over to the sports card market, and I think it's amazing. So if you're interested in that, if you have more of that advanced analytics bent and you want to email us, I'm considering kind of pulling together like a focus group of people who want to take more advanced analytics to the next level in market movers and brainstorm on ideas and maybe be a part of a smaller community in that regard. Then go ahead and email us at help@sportscardinvestor.com and just mention that in the subject or something. You could say, hey, Teapot, want to talk to you about advanced analytics. But to answer this specific question, we have been talking with our devs about getting some ability to sort of draw custom chart lines so that you can do your own trend analysis. You can see the highs and the lows. See a lot of people do that with our charts on Instagram or sometimes with their own charts. They'll put it up and they draw their own lines to kind of show the highs, the lows, and really see your sell and buy points on different charts. So that's one thing. And then I will say from some of my conversations, we do plan on adding in rolling averages. So if you're familiar with that concept, basically it sort of, spreads out the trend over time rather than the daily peaks and valleys. So you can kind of use that. People who are familiar with that from the stock market, you can kind of use that as an indication too for buy and sell points. And I'm really fascinated actually to get into more conversation with people who have that experience and to see how much they think that applies to sports cards, because there are so many variables when it comes to injuries and off-season acquisitions and things that can sort of break those trends when it comes to pure like investor psychology. So just a little bit of nerdy kind of analytical stuff, but definitely fully aware there's a lot more we could be doing with this data. We're sort of trying to keep it accessible to the broad group of people. And that's also why we started this channel and are having these live streams, is to kind of help explain how to use it in its existing form. But there's definitely an appetite out there from a lot of people to have a more powerful tool. And that's something we're definitely willing to explore. One question, are there plans to make a buy, sell, trade feature within market movers within my collection? And yes, basically, yes, that's on our roadmap. We'd like to create an ecosystem within market movers where you can, connect with others, buy, sell, trade, sort of like we have on our Discord chat server. If you're not in Discord yet, I definitely encourage you to go out there. I think we have over 18,000 members in that chat server now. And there's buy, sell, trade channels within our member channels. And then there's also ones devoted to each sport. There's different break groups and all kinds of things. So something for everybody there. And I'm going to jump over to the chat real quick and just see if any questions have come in. I've got about 10 more that came in before this, but I want to make sure I'm not neglecting the chat here. So just scrolling up. What's up? Hey, Kelly Rice, Ziggy, Wisconsin Collectibles. Good to see you. He's always in our member live streams, and Wisconsin Collectibles dominates trivia. If you ever need anybody who has sports or sports card trivia on your team, figure out a way to get a hold of that guy, because he's always winning or getting second or third in our trivia. So he's gotten plenty of giveaways in our member live streams. We got Jordan here asking the token question: when is the Drummond Nebula giveaway? So if you don't know, you can follow me on Instagram at Drummond Card Collector, also at teapots_cards. I'm a big Andre Drummond fan. I like to think, hopefully, probably the best Drummond collection in the world. And it's just been a lot of fun. I started out just sort of chasing optic rainbows, and it just went from there. Big Detroit Pistons fan. I actually live in Michigan, so I grew up a Detroit sports fan, and Drummond was the best player we've had for the last decade consistently. I was sad to see him go. I do not want him to go to the Lakers. I want him to go, I don't know. I'd rather see him to go to Toronto. I want him to have a chance to win. I was hoping Dallas last year or Atlanta, not Cleveland, but Brooklyn over LA for sure. I'm not Team LeBron, so sorry for all of you who are. He's an amazing player, but as somebody who grew up rooting for the Pistons and saw him, with the Cavs and the Heat get all the calls, not a fan of LeBron. So enough about that. Let's see here. Faulty dates occurring again with the sealed wax. Let's see, lots of Dibs chatter. So I'm not going to get into Dibs tonight. I'm not going to get into Dibs, but you've seen it on a recent episode that Jeff's advertised Dibs, fractional card investing, really cool. They're scaling it up slowly, so you got to kind of sign up, and you can email us on our website. Actually, I'll just show you that real quick. I'll show you what that looks like. So if you scroll down, it looks like right here. Sorry, you can put your email in and register for early access to Dibs. Sign up, and you should get an email with an early access code. So go ahead and visit our website and sign up there if you haven't done that yet. All right. Will there be BGS Pop Reports? So Kev's Cards, will there be BGS Pop Reports in the near future? Not in the near future, no. So there was actually a question, and maybe I'll come over to that and scroll down, where somebody was asking about our plans to do things with population reports. But BGS doesn't make their population reports very accessible. If you've ever gone to their website and tried to navigate around and get to it, it's somewhat tricky. So we do that, respectfully. It's a manual process. It's their proprietary data that they make, public. It's publicly accessible, but it's not easily accessible. And so we basically don't have the bandwidth to go in and spend. I mean, honestly, we put in so many cards now that it would take hours and hours more manpower than it would be really worth to go in and get it. It's not to say the information is not extremely valuable. It is, and it's something we'd like to have, but unfortunately they don't make that data very accessible, which is probably why you don't see it readily available out in the marketplace in general, outside of their app and their website. So let's see. Ziggy says, are you taking any other graded companies in the near future, like CSG, HGA, et cetera? Somebody asked me that in Discord the other day too. Northeast Ohio Sports Cards, who is a member and has his own YouTube channel. He asked me that. Right now, no. And the reason being, just like we don't have a direct feed from their stuff of what they're grading in terms of sports cards, and they're so small that we would basically be like guessing. It'd be like a shot in the dark to go, oh, should we put this grade into the system for these cards? And then, for everything. And then people are kind of coming down here and they're selecting grade options. And now they see all these other CSG, HGA, SGCs, like a bunch of different grades. That would probably be really confusing. So we're not adding them right now. It's just not a priority. Now, certainly if they continue to establish themselves, obviously last year we started adding in some SGC cards. They're back bragging on Instagram that they're going to have really good turnaround times. So interested to see how that plays out, and if people sort of shift over them with the ever-changing grading landscape and pricing plans and everything. But short answer is no, not planning to add in HGA or CSG or any of the others right now. All right. Hello, Michael Lowry coming down. Love the trivia. Glad. Yeah. All right. I will say, not to toot my own horn a little bit. I did go in one time, actually a couple of times, and do the trivia just for fun. And one of the weeks I won, but I just put Tyler, and then Jeff was announcing the winners, and thought, well, we have to figure out who Tyler was, and I had to come clean. They wouldn't let me take home one of the prizes. So if you haven't done that, if you're a member and you haven't come to the monthly live streams that we do just for fun and more general Q&A, definitely check that out. We do live breaks. We give away cards for answering, for asking questions, things like that. Let's see. Adam says, wondering what your opinion is on Vlad cards this season. Man, I'm going to be honest. I sold my Vlad cards. So when it comes to baseball, I have a slightly different theory with baseball cards than I do basketball cards and football cards, and other sports. And my approach with baseball is that baseball is a massive league. There's tons of players. There's minor league players who everybody gets their prospect cards, Bowman prospects, and wants to buy up on. So there's a ton to choose from. And, baseball doesn't have, it's certainly an international sport, not to the level that soccer and basketball are, at least not in a sports card market. It's really like US and Canada collecting baseball cards. So my approach with baseball is highly diversified portfolio, buy before the season, before the hype, and then wait. And it's such a long season that and guys are so streaky in baseball that when they hit that 1 or 2 week streak where they hit 4 homers in a week or 7 homers in 2 weeks suddenly, and they have this just crazy, hot streak or whatever, that's when I sell, because the prices go up and then you can get in and get out. And last year I did that. I bought, I don't know, 30, 35, 40 baseball cards. And I said to myself, I'm going to sell these when they hit 2x. I'm just going to sell them when they hit 2x. I'm not going to be greedy. That's when I'm going to take my money. So put $1,500 in, you're going to come out with, 2,500 after fees and everything. And it worked out really well. Some of the players like Keston Hura, Gleyber Torres, other guys, I kind of spread it out over those, sort of younger guys from the last 5 years. Those guys didn't work out so well. I'm still holding their cards, waiting. And so Vlad was one that I was waiting on, and his stuff has already gone up so significantly. I've probably seen the pictures. He's trimmed down like 40 pounds or something. He looks really, really jacked. And I sold them. I sold my Vlads already, most of them. I have a couple more low end ones, but I sold most of them before the season, just because that's kind of my strategy with baseball is to really get in and get out, when the highs and lows occur. Now, in general, what I think about Vlad, I don't know. I personally am higher on Bo Bichette. I think Bo Bichette's going to be the number 1 guy in Toronto. I think that Vlad certainly has the power. He's a fun to watch. He's got great personality, like his dad did. And I hope they do well. Blue Jays fans, they need something to root for. So they have a lot of young talent. So we'll see what happens. All right. Jason Larson said I skipped his question. So let me scroll up and see if I can find your question. Just a reminder, if you weren't here, put question at the beginning. If you have a question and you're not just chatting, just that helps it stand out more, like in all caps, question. How do we set alerts for our cards in my collection for when it hits a certain price so we know when to sell it? Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. So I'll actually just select these 2 grades, Jason. And again, if you haven't watched my popular card charts video, go back and watch that. It's on the channel. It's on our Market Movers channel. Go back and watch that. And it kind of walks through everything within popular card charts. So what you'll see when I run this chart here is that this little alert icon is already lit up blue. And that's actually because I have a price alert set up for this card already. And you can add another one. If I click this, it'll let you add another price alert. But you just click these little buttons, and then you can call the alert whatever you want. By default, it does it as like the card details. But let's say for this one, I wanted to know sell, and then I want to know when this is above, let's say it's above $150, and then you just hit OK. And then this will refresh eventually. You see it turns blue. So then if I come over to my manage alerts screen, you'll see all my alerts. Got my PSA 10. I've got my PSA 9. It's going to kind of give you some price history right on this dashboard and show you, this one's set for above. This one is actually like a buy alert. So if it falls below $225, I want to know because that's my cue to go in and buy that card. So that's how you set that. I hope that answers your question, Jason. All right, let's see here. Ziggy, I know it isn't sports cards, but have you looked into scrapping NBA Top Shot sales data? Oh, scraping. I think you mean scraping. We are interested in bringing in some of the digital card, digital moments, Top Shot and stuff into market movers. There's so much data out there now that's becoming relevant, especially in the NFT space and non-sports cards and everything. We'd like to get it in here. Again, it's kind of like do what you set out to do really well before you spread yourself too thinly. So Jeff's talked about it before. Yes, we do have some plans. It'd be great to bring in other data. It'd be great to bring in other card data from other websites. Continue to have those conversations with other companies and see about that. But right now, I wouldn't say it's on the immediate roadmap. Not the next 2 to 3 months, unless something really changes. Obviously, it's super hot. Hammer, who's on our team, our director of operations, he's kind of gone down the rabbit hole with all of that. He was one of the kind of early adopters and is reaping the benefits of that. Sort of laughing at all of us. So let's see here. Mookie Betts is undervalued. I think the Bauer signing shouldn't been a reason for them to jump. It's interesting, Kev. The people want to see team success, not that the Dodgers need any more team success. I mean, they're already stacked. They have to be the favorites in the NL again. But Bauer is a big ad. Their pitching is going to be rock solid. Their entire lineup's going to be rock solid. Betts is definitely a guy. I mean, when you look at his success, his performance, he's got the World Series, which Trout doesn't have. He's got, similar comparable WAR over the years. He's won MVPs. He's second or third in MVPs. 2 World Series now. So he's young and he's super talented. So, and he's got that factor. You saw the big plays he made last year in the playoffs that almost was like, man, if they hadn't had this guy, the Dodgers literally might not have won the world. Like they might not even gone to the World Series, let alone won last year because he was that big for them. Clutch defensive plays, big hits. So definitely really interesting. All right. Jordan said, whoops, scrolled too far. Tyler, what upcoming releases are you most looking forward to and why? I mean, obviously Prism Basketball, which is going to be, I heard like $3,000 a box, which is absurd. It's actually mind-boggling, and wax prices are now getting to the point, I would say, with the recent changes to PSA grading prices and then wax prices, that there's now this like dysbiosis in the gut of sports cards now, where the wax is way too high and the bottom can't just like fall out of it. Like people they still have the itch. They still want to break. They still want to invest in that wax. But if you can't go out and get those low dollar, $5 base cards, Tom Brady base cards, just LeBron base cards, like graded and quickly turned around and make your money back, have that like factored into the cost of an investment into wax. I just see those two things as like out of equilibrium now, like significantly. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with wax prices this next year. Plus, there's just like this hyper market right now, sort of pumping up these prices, even though this rookie class, it doesn't have the momentum behind it that 2018, 2019 did for basketball. LaMelo's been playing really well. I'm personally super high on Anthony Edwards. I think he's going to keep figuring out his shot and how to score effectively. And he's going to be a really, really exciting athletic scoring guard. But I'm really excited about Prism. Revolution Basketball just came out today. Actually, it was on my list of to-dos to start getting those in to market movers into the system. Didn't get a chance to get to it today, but we'll definitely get those, base cards and the basic parallels in there of the key rookies and key veterans. So Revolution came out today. I love that product. Super big gamble in terms of a rip. It's obviously on the lower end at like $400, $450 now, but I still, man, it's like boom or bust, total boom or bust. You get like one serial numbered card out of it, and it can be a number to 100, Jakob Pertl or something, and you're like, okay, I just literally got like $15 back in this investment. So it's not something I would rip per se, unless I just really have that itch and want something low dollar with a big hit potential. But I love it in terms of buying singles, and it grades really well too historically. So let's see here. Jason said that answers his question. Let's see. Card try 3. Having looked at the amount of data that you guys have, are there any standard ratios or pop numbers that we can key in on for spotting under overvalued cards? Yes. So let me jump over. I'm going to actually answer a couple more questions, then I'm going to come back to that one. So there was a question that I got before this about when are the updates coming for comics, Pokemon, etc. So comics, I would say right now we don't have any plans specifically to get comics into market movers. I have no experience with comics. It's a different animal. Now, could we get there someday where we're bringing in other data entirely, or potentially creating a separate tool with the same structure to do comics and other things like that, collectibles? Yeah, possibly. But right now we haven't talked about adding comics. Now, non-sports cards like Pokemon, Marvel, Star Wars, etc., definitely in our plans to do. It's something for I would say the second half of this year. Again, kind of goes back to the fact that we want to really nail doing the sports cards correctly. And the biggest piece of feedback we get all the time is more cards, more cards, more cards. It has been since we launched a year ago. It's the biggest thing that I want to see is just get me all the data for the sports cards so that I can compare them. And that reminds me that I actually want to come over here and point out to you that we just added this info button about a month ago. And so you can come in here. There's frequently asked questions. This is a great way to come in and just explore like commonly asked questions, things that maybe you haven't thought of yet, but maybe you would think of later. So you can come in here and click on this. How do you determine which cards get added as popular cards? Again, this is, I think this links out maybe right to my sheet that I did a little while back about how we do that. So you can definitely explore that. New features and updates. So anytime we have bigger, substantial releases, you can come in here. You also get a little sneak preview of this coming soon to find out what's coming soon. So we're going to be adding a quick search bar over here that'll let you just type in a card and hit go and take you to the popular card chart for it. Mass import to my collection is actually in testing right now. I'm just working out the kinks with our devs and going to make sure we have really good instructions around that. My collection charts we've been talking about. You would not believe how challenging that has been to work out all the different scenarios and make sure that when we go live with that data that it's going to be reliable for everybody in their collections. Popular wax. Popular wax is something we were planning on getting started this week. Instead, we actually pivoted, and probably this week through maybe through the end of the month of March, we've definitely got our devs kind of all hands on deck working on just overall buttoning up performance improvements on the site. So anybody who's worked in software development or worked with data knows that as you add more data, you got to back up the resources. You got to add more, bigger database, more servers. You've got to, refactor your code and clean all of that up. So we have been scaling really quickly over the last year, adding in all kinds of new amazing features. We want to make sure that the system is really reliable. And so we're going to put a lot of emphasis into that this month and just making sure that that's working the way that it should be. And then more data attributes. So you might start seeing it on certain cards. This is going to be a gradual process because we have, like I said, 15,000 cards. So going back and retrofitting them with all of this data takes time. But we're going to be putting in card numbers. You'll see those in the description on the cards. We're adding in and kind of changing, cleaning up the variations so that when you look on the left bar, it'll say base. But then, when you come in and you see like cards where it's really important in baseball, the description, like Ronald Acuna Jr.'s bat down, you'll see that on the card description so that you can kind of, clarify that. And then really exciting will be a rookie card logo or rookie card sort of like indicator, sort of like COMC has, if you've ever been on COMC's site, where you'll see rookie card, RC or something, and you'll be able to even filter on particular sets by rookie card only so that you're not pulling in veteran cards. And that's going to be really valuable throughout the entire tool. So enough about that. Info, let's see, asked about Pokemon. I think I answered that question. Recently added cards. So this is really cool. People always ask us, how do I find out what you added? How do I find out when you added cards? Come to this page. You can filter by sport. You can filter by time frame. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the number of cards added in that time frame. So in the last 30 days, 5,106 new cards have been added. And we were promising this for months that we were going to speed up the process, speed up the way that we could add cards. And we are now at that point. So we're adding cards quickly. We are taking a more holistic approach to try to go in and really be effective with our use of time and how we do that, adding in like all the sets, all the grades. We kind of had this, I don't know, inefficient cadence before where we took a lot of member requests, which we're still doing, but we use those more to inform our decisions about how we're adding them than specifically like going in and saying, I'm going to add this one card in a PSA 9 like somebody requested. So that's kind of how we're using that information now to sort of guide our decisions and how we continue to build out the database. But our collective team between myself, Parker, and Hammer, we kind of cover all the sports and, kind of knowing what's coming up and what should be in here. Sometimes we reach out for assistance with soccer, hockey to the community. But even those, we're learning a lot as we go and trying to make sure that we have a really good balance of those cards. So the last thing on here is training videos. And you can come in here and we'll link. You can come in here and see the member-only live streams. I'll put the link for this video when it's done in here, put the links to the other ones. So it's just a nice place in here to have different training videos by topic. Let's see. I want to come back over here to the other questions. So somebody asked a question. This might have been Wisconsin Collectibles, I think. If I have a manually entered card in my collection and it subsequently becomes a card tracked in the Market Movers database, will it convert to automatic price tracking? Not yet. That is on our list of to-dos. And probably the way that that's going to work is that you'll have a little alert icon or indicator or something in your collection, something preferably that would be filterable that you can come in and see and confirm that it's the card. Because what happens is, right, if you're in my collection, I'll show everybody who hasn't, maybe hasn't seen this before, but we have two types of cards. We have our popular cards, which is that 15,000 or so cards that we've added. Those track the prices every day. They update automatically. You can add them. And then you can come up here, and if you don't find that card, you can click Add Manual Card. You put in the details yourself, and then you put in the price. And then these are the cards that you can track. You can update the price yourself. So like this Ultra Jam City Raw Kobe Bryant, I can come out here and come over to chart any card. And then I can come over here and see like, what is this card sold for recently? And it'll show you right here, $157 is the last sale, $175. You kind of make the decision, like, what do I really think this card's worth, looking at the data. And then you can just pop back over and you can update that card by clicking on this little update button, and you can change the price, and then it keeps track of, when you last updated it. So the question was, will those automatically sort of pick up and merge? Well, if I look at this card, I put in this data myself. If we were adding in, popular cards, our attributes might not exactly match what somebody put into theirs for this description. They might have put Jam City insert, or they might have put Jam City SP, or they might have put the pack odds, 1 in 72 packs or whatever. So we want to make sure that that's for sure a match. So instead, we'll probably give you like a merge option to review. Is it this card? We think it is. Boom, merge it to a popular card. I'm going to grab some water here real quick because my throat's drying out. All right. Let's see. Oh man, somebody set this up. I just saw it. Sorry, my scroll keeps jumping on the chat. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody's, but there's not like a little down arrow. There's only a ability to scroll. Come back, card investor. I saw a question about racing. I don't know why I can't find it now. Racing cards. Parker mentioned to me this morning that he was going to add some racing cards, if not today, soon. So Parker, our director of data, who's on my team, he said, yeah, we should get some racing cards in there. Definitely agree. People want racing cards. He's a big Formula One guy. Obviously, there's NASCAR cards. I haven't followed those too closely. I'm not into racing, but I'm kind of curious. I know I see a lot of like those pop up in my general eBay searches for stained glass and things like that. Matthew Mescar says, can you talk more about the upcoming mass import feature will function? Yes, I will give you a little explanation of how that's going to work. Basically, you'll have a template. So when you go up here, you're going to come up here and there'll actually be a button up here that'll say mass upload or mass import. There'll also be an option in the dropdown that says mass upload or mass import, something like that. And you'll go to that screen and it'll have a button say download template. You're going to download it. It's going to be a very basic template with just column headers for a spreadsheet. You can do it in Excel. You can do it in Google Sheets, whatever you use to open spreadsheets. And then you're just going to fill in the data. And it's basically like what you see on update manual card. So it's going to ask you the sport, the player, the year, the set name, the variation, the grade, the price you paid, the date you bought it. And so then you'll have the opportunity to upload all of those. It's also going to function in a way sort of like how we would go out and look at eBay titles, so that it'll have some flexibility. So again, kind of like why we can't just merge these manual cards to automatic. We're going to use the same logic in the future for this merge function that we're using for mass import, which is like, if you were to put in your spreadsheet 97-98 and you were to put Fleer Ultra and Jam City insert, and you left this blank, it's still going to have enough context that when you upload your spreadsheet, it'll just have an opportunity to upload the file. It's going to take you to a screen and it's going to show you all the cards that you had on your spreadsheet, and you'll confirm. If it thinks it's a popular card, it's going to show you what card it thinks it is, and you accept or reject it. If it doesn't pick one up, you can choose to add it as a manual card, or you can just reject it also. And then when you get done, everything that you rejected that you didn't want to import, you can download those results and sort of review them and go, okay, did my data standards or how I typed this out in the spreadsheet conform to how Market Movers has it set up? Because you'll notice we just do a single year like this, and it's always the lower year. So 97-98 would be 1997 in Market Movers, et cetera. So it should be smart enough to pick it up. Maybe some people don't want to put their manual cards into Market Movers yet. Maybe they'd rather try again every week to see which ones are popular, and they only want the popular cards in here. So it'll give you some flexibility too. So that's kind of how that's going to work. All right. Sin City Rips says, are you going to be adding in more raw cards of popular players of different sets? Example, Bryce Harper, Topps Chrome base raw. You have PSA 10, PSA 9. Yes. We have been adding a lot more raw cards. So we are, I'll say, sort of like modifying our philosophy on raw cards a little bit. There's such a demand for it, and it's such a big part of what people do in like an investment strategy. Buy raw, get them graded, which we're going to have the ability to convert to graded cards in my collection if you have it in here raw. But then, people just only buy raw cards because they deal in volume, or they buy lower dollar cards. It's harder to manage all of that data reliably. And honestly, we're kind of looking at that saying, what should our approach be? Should we continue to try to review all of these outliers and exceptions every day when raw cards are so tricky with eBay titles? But we've kind of made like some adjustments internally about how we manage all of that. And we try to stay on top of it and make sure that all the results are as pure as possible. What might happen is you might get like a card that's right around the same price as another raw card, and it slips through, but it's not really impacting the graph or the trend line. It's just another card of the same player. But in general, we try to make sure our queries are so buttoned up when we first put the card into the tool that won't happen. So we've started adding in more raw cards. The biggest thing is we don't want bad data coming in. We don't want erroneous prices, causing people to make bad decisions. So that's why initially we weren't adding them, but we have been adding raw like by default to a lot of cards. And we're going in and we're extending all of our existing cards, like modern, ultra modern. By default, all of them should at some point be PSA 10, PSA 9, BGS 9.5 raw, in the very least. And then for like the higher end rookies, others or big sets, BGS 10, BGS 10 black label, BGS 9, SGC 10 pristine, SGC 10, SGC 9.5 maybe. So that's kind of how we're adding them in. And then on older vintage stuff, I've honestly been like, I was adding in vintage soccer, some vintage basketball. I was pulling up the pop reports on PSA and saying, if there's cards graded in that grade, I'm putting it in, provided that they actually have value like on the market. If they're only like nobody cares about them. It's $10 PSA 1. Maybe I'm not adding it, but in general, we're trying to cover all the grades on vintage as well. Greg just asked, maybe, I'm not sure when you asked that question, Greg, you asked the same question that I answered already about manual cards converting. So yes, maybe that was you that sent that question in beforehand too. Haha, Aaron says, even my water bottle is cool. Thanks. Yeah, nice glass bottle. Does look cool in the light, doesn't it? Okay. Yeah, Jordan's, I like Jordan's question. Is it a felony to create terrible gimmicky eBay auction titles? If not, can it be? The funny thing is I dropped on our team Slack tonight before we joined. I dropped in there. If we run out of questions, maybe I'll just rant about eBay titles because people put the craziest things in there. Like I saw this Luka Doncic card that said, true one of one, which usually true one of one means it's really a one of one. It was like 24 of 35, true one of one. And I'm like, this isn't I mean, even maybe the pop count they were talking about, I'm not really sure. And then the card below it on the same search, it was like a Luka Doncic one of one search. The card below it was not even a Luka Doncic. It was like, I don't know, let's say Bryn Forbes or something, some other player. And then in the title, it said same year as Luka Doncic. So it was like a Bryn Forbes one of one from 2018, and they put same year as Luka Doncic in their title. So people get very creative. They try to hit the, I guess, search optimization within eBay. But yeah, so let's see. Considering both, Brett says, considering both vintage and modern have been on the decline lately, how do you view the near future of the card market? I think we're about to see things swing up. Now, vintage, what's happening is like the trend lines are coalescing, right? So we see this like cyclical, like back and forth, or we at least have over the last year, where ultra modern was super hot in 2019 into early 2020. And then Last Dance came out and vintage took off, and Jordan was the pace setter on those market trends, and he was like going crazy. And then everybody followed after that. And like I want to say Wet Hot Summer. That's not the right title. Whatever the McGuire Sosa documentary, came out, their cards all went crazy. People were like, oh yeah, those guys were awesome, even if they were doing steroids. And so all those players did that. And then we saw part of that, I think, coincided with production shutting down of modern product, of ultra modern product, because of COVID. And so all the attention went back to the all-time grades, which is like interesting psychologically, because people still like, oh man, I loved those memories, the emotional attachment I had to those players in my childhood. And then when the bubble happened in the NBA, and when the baseball season kicked off last July, and when football season was right around the corner after that, and the products were coming out again, it was like all attention and all eyes were back on the modern, active live sports and those players' cards. And then football ended, baseball ended, football ended, NBA kicked off and saw a hype before that in the holidays, and then everybody's like shifted. And this is like, I think, very normal, this like early winter, January, February pullback on all that stuff, because there's just not a lot. You're sort of in this mid-season lull with basketball and with hockey, and there's no football and there's no baseball. Now, baseball has actually been on the upward trend. People are like getting out in front of it even earlier, I think, because of that. I think even football is now on the upward trend. And now the vintage stuff, yes, it's starting to come down. It just went up too high. Like everything's, it very rarely goes all the way up and then just stabilizes, right? We see this like, bull and bear, like it's a typical cycle. So I think that with Prism basketball coming out, that's going to be what kicks everything up a notch. Again, like we just saw Optic football come out, Prism basketball is going to come out. I think March 31st is the announced date. Who knows if that'll actually happen, but that's what they've said. So once that happens, it's going to be madness. Breakers are going to be having heydays. And I think that all those cards are going to come out. And then on top of it, you've got, NBA playoffs. It's the second half of the season now. Back tonight, I think there's a couple of game or two. All-Star breaks over. So we're going to be heading toward the playoffs, and there's going to be certain players that are going to start losing value because they're going to be out of the playoff picture. There's going to be other players who are back in it. And I think that both the East and the West are super wide open. I mean, I still expect a certain handful of teams to get there into the conference finals and into the finals, but there could certainly be upsets. So you could see guys like Jamal Murray or, Dame Lillard or, other players like see their value go crazy if they have a really good playoff performance in the first or second round. Greg says, are there any plans to add sales tax paid to be factored into my collection stats? We don't break it out. I mean, I include it in fees. So if you mark a card as sold, it's going to ask you the fees that you paid. So if you have tax that you want to bake into your fees before you mark it as sold, you can do that. Or if you're talking about sales tax when you buy a card, I always add it in. If I buy a card on eBay, I got to pay 6% Michigan sales tax. I add the shipping and I add the sales tax. And then when I sell a card, I add in all my fees for shipping costs and eBay fees and whatever. So I just add it all in there. All right, let's see. It's 9:46. I'm going to try to keep this to right around an hour. Jordan wants to know, will Olympic players like Simone Biles and Michael Phelps and others be added to market movers? Yes, actually, we're just talking about that. I did add some Olympic cards. I want to say, Phelps. So here you have Michael Phelps, and I don't think there's a ton of them. You might be blowing your buy opportunity here because there might not be a lot of them. It's in there, but there's not a lot of these transacting. I don't think. See if anything comes up. I might have to double check that now. I wonder if I forgot to actually pull in the data. That doesn't seem right. I'll double check on that. But I know I added those cards actually like a week or two ago. Some of those key Olympic athletes. Okay, let's see. Thanks. Yeah, card try 3. Okay, thank you for the reminder on ratios, pop counts. So let me actually take you over here. And I'm going to be, again, there's a series releasing every Saturday. Every Saturday at noon, there's a video coming out on this channel about the different components of market movers. And at first, I'm just going to do it sort of like, I don't want to call it a high level, like an appropriate level of how the different things work, more like just a tutorial of how to navigate and use market movers. But then I'll be doing more deep dive videos, maybe recorded live streams, let's go digging market movers, that kind of stuff. But if you come over here to the, let's do the grade ratios first, right? And this is going to load in just a second. Okay, so I have save searches, but all you have to do is you come over here. Always put your higher grade first on this if you do a grade search. I have that up here somewhere on the screen. Thought I had it on here. Well, always put your higher grade first and the lower grade second. And so I'm just going to use my search here, one of the save searches. This is a 2019 Prism Basketball comparing PSA 10 to PSA 9. So I really like to use 7-day average as opposed to ending average just when it's a more reliable data set than like a recent one-time ended average sale. You can bounce back over here for the last sales, but I like to come over here and do 7-day average. And then when I'm comparing grades, I would say in general, you really need to be within the same set or in the very least in the same year when you're thinking about multipliers and ratios with grades. And pop counts matter immensely too, because obviously if you have a card that the gem rate or a set that the gem rate is really low on or lower on, like Optic, which has a low gem rate, or some of these other ones, Noir would have a really low gem rate, or older vintage cards. Pop counts matter significantly when it comes to this. But if you kind of stay within the same set, within the same year, you tend to get your more reliable information, more like comparing apples to apples. So if I come up here and I really want to just compare, like, let's say base cards, so that I'm still looking at apples to apples on this Prism set. So I can see this is really interesting. The PSA 10 to PSA 9 ratio is 2.93 on base cards. Whereas in general, I would say in general, on ultra modern, like 3.65 to 3.85 or even 4 to 1 tends to be the PSA 10 to PSA 9. Now, if I change this to silver, I can almost guarantee it's going to be much higher than that. 4.13. So I will get more into this later and why I think this is in another video or in another live stream. But this is how I would compare for grades, and you can look for opportunities. And that's why I select a particular variation, because you want to sort of hone in on the most consistent piece, because there's consumer investor psychology that goes into this stuff. Sometimes there's nothing to it either, but usually you'll see people sort of even these things out. So if I see Bull, it's really interesting because, his stuff went crazy last year. If you can go out and get this card for this price, the multiplier is much higher here. What this is basically telling you is one of two things. It's telling you what just happened. My sheet just signed me out. Sorry. That's weird. Hopefully everything else is still running. All right. And log back into my sheet because that's the rest of my questions still. That was weird. Okay. So this is either telling me that the PSA 10 is too high and is going to come down, or that the PSA 9 is too low and needs to go up, or will likely go up, because all these things do tend to equalize over time. So whenever you see this little exclamation point, what that's telling you is that it's more than one standard deviation from the mean. So we're kind of considering those outliers, right? So you kind of look at these. You have to use your intuition or your knowledge of that player. What I do typically is I will look at these cards, and then I'll look at how they relate to other players of a similar caliber, and try to determine, okay, with Bull here and Rui here, like which one of these makes sense? Do I think this card should go up or down? And you can do that a number of different ways. So this is how I would use this. There was another question that somebody asked about variation ratios. And they said, I think the question was, why don't we have it set up so that you can compare across sets? And actually we do. So if you come in here and you do 2019, let's do Prism basketball. And let's do 2019 Optic basketball. Okay. Choose sets. And again, I say always put the higher grade. You can do it the lower one and look at them as a less than one, but I think it makes more sense to do it this way. So I'm going to do the Prism Silver to the Optic Hollow, okay, and choose variations. And this was actually the exact example, and this is the one I really like to look at a lot, is come over here to 7-day average. And this is just fun. I love coming in here and staring at this and trying to understand the psychology of the market in this space and why some of these cards. And it's funny because you look at like Sekou Doumbouya is much higher. PJ Washington's is much higher. On this report, actually, what I like to do is I like to filter by grade, if it'll load. There we go. And I select graded cards, because comparing graded and raw can be totally skewed too, especially for shipping costs on lower dollar cards. So rate 2.0 on the nose. And you can kind of come in here and see, okay, there's outliers here. Man, this really looks like RJ's Optic Hollow might be too low. But again, this is going to be a question of whether or not you think that his silver is too high or his optic's too low. Where you can piecemeal this together is if you open up another screen, or if you were to, let's say, click on this chart. This is how I kind of check this sometimes. You can see RJ's stuff has been going down. So if you believe in Barrett, now might be the time to buy. But I'm gonna run this for his PSA 9 and PSA 10, and I'm gonna check the ratio here, and I'm gonna see that this is at 4.77. Now you remember that ratio was 4, right around a little over 4 for PSA 10 to PSA 9 on Prism Silvers. So this is too high. Okay, this is too high. So that tells me that this is too high. Whoops. And then this is too high. So something's got to give. It's really strange. It actually seems like both of those things need to come down. Like this needs to come down to flatten this out closer to the rest of the sample size, the other players. Because if this goes up anymore, if this goes up more to level this out, then this ratio goes up even more significantly. So there's something funny going on with RJ Barrett's cards. And maybe since you've seen that the chart is coming down, that this is this is sort of a case of a leading indicator. But it doesn't look like it. It kind of looks like these cards are really following the same trend and declining at the same rate. So it's not a like hard and fast. There's a reason we didn't put in here like a indicator that says like buy now, because it's not that straightforward. It's there's definitely a lot more nuance to it. But once you start getting in here and asking those more like inquisitive questions, this can be extremely, extremely valuable information. So I hope that helps. Let me come back over to my other questions, and I want to, whoops. Okay. Scroll. All right, so I'm going to actually I want to highlight one thing, which is, like I said, we've been adding a ton of cards. So I just wanted to highlight that. And Parker was good enough to go in and just kind of do an overview recap and send that to me about the cards that we've added this month and which ones we added. So I'm just going to sort of quick hitter style on this. We added lots and lots of hockey young guns. We're continuing to try to get all the relevant hockey young guns going back to when they started, which I think might have been like 1992. So hockey young guns, hockey vintage and legends, Bobby Orr's and Gordie Howe's and all the great hockey players, Gretzky's, obviously. We've been adding those in. 2012 basketball rookies. We had Prism in there. I went in and I added the select hot rookies, white hot rookies, I think, red hot rookies from 2012. That's a set that I personally think is flying under the radar. Hasn't gotten as much attention. Select was it was weird that year because Damian Lillard was the only player who had a rookie card in Select, like a base rookie card. But then several of the others had these sort of hot rookies or red hot, white hot rookies cards. So we added in more rookie cards from the 2012 class. I added in all of the rookies cards from the recent basketball classes. That is an insert set that I think is worth tracking to see what happens. People sort of caught on to the fact that Select Courtside was 2 per box, like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. They was like, oh, wow, these are actually really, really rare. And those things have been outpacing the market ever since and going crazy. Really expensive now. The rookies are extremely rare. And in basketball, they're only the top 5 draft picks. So it doesn't have the rookie card logo on it. I get that. From my perspective, they look really cool. Unfortunately, 2018 is probably the worst looking year, in my opinion, for the rookies, just in terms of the design. But they're super short printed, like super short printed. You go and look at the pop counts, very, very low, awesome looking cards. And I just see those as something that, in the very least, should keep up with rookie cards in terms of how they, rise and fall, and they do in general. But there's this outside shot that the market realizes, hey, wow, these are really rare and really short printed, and they look sweet. Maybe they'll latch onto that. Who knows? I like them even for my PC. Kobe's Topps Chrome base and refractors for all relevant grades. So we've been adding a lot more Kobe cards, a lot more LeBron cards. We're going to be adding in a ton more Jordan cards. We're going to put some more emphasis on that. Some of the key inserts and things like that. But we wanted to add in, since Topps Chrome has become so popular, and like that 08 set with all the iconic photography and the chalk toss and the, LeBron guarding Kobe and all of that. So we've been adding in all of those. We added in all of LeBron's select silvers in relevant grades. We've been filling out non-numbered parallels for modern select basketball, like tricolor and scope, 2020 optic football, downtown checklists, along with more downtowns from previous years, old school boxing legends like Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Jack Johnson, etc. We've been putting Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay cards in there for a while. True rookies of UFC legends. UFC cards are going crazy. Parker was calling that months ago and was spot on with that. WWE legends like The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Triple H, Andre the Giant, etc. Expanding the number of parallels for hobby superstars like Luka and Trey. Expanding the number of parallels for soccer superstars like Mbappe, Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, etc. Adding in soccer legends. I went in one weekend and added in a ton of Pele cards. His stuff is going crazy. I really wish I'd gotten in sooner on Pele, and not even necessarily from a money perspective. It's just, if you go look at Pele vintage cards, they are spectacular. I'm for some reason, soccer vintage like really grabs me even more than other sports. They're really, really cool cards. They just seem historic. They have amazing color. Lots of 2020 basketball rookies. We'll keep trying to stay on top of those. Oddball cards. I like this. Oddball cards are heating up. Joe Rogan, Michael Phelps, etc. And then let's see, 1948 Bowman basketball cards. So that's just a very high level glimpse into the 5,000 or so cards that we've added in the last month. I had a few more questions from before this, and then I'm gonna probably call it a night. Let's see, more data pop. Okay. There were, let's see, population counts. So population counts is, I'll just say that we manually maintain population counts. And with the way that we're growing our database, we've got to explore some options to make sure that we have, staffing to stay on top of those. What we don't want is out of date population counts without people realizing that. Now you can hover over these. Maybe you have to do it on the popular card charts, but you can hover over the popular card chart count, the pop count, to see when it was last updated. And this one was a month ago. We're trying to stay on top of these. We have like 9,000 PSA cards to update manually to stay on top of. And if any of you have gone to PSA's website recently, I think they're getting more protective of their data, which that's their prerogative. But you have to go in and enter a CAPTCHA verification and click through pictures of a bike or a boat now to get to that information. So we're going to look at some other options. And we understand this is massively important information, like some of the most important, almost on par with the prices themselves, to know the population counts. Hoping with Nat Turner in place now that maybe he will be open to working with us and to, seeing how valuable that information is to the community. But they certainly have a lot of plans, I'm sure, with him in a leadership position now. So I just wanted to kind of hit on that because people have asked, are you going to do charts? Are you going to do market caps? Are you going to do other things? There's so much we could do with population counts, so much, and we want to track all of that. We want to track gem rates. But if these companies aren't going to make it accessible, aren't going to make their data readily accessible, that becomes a really huge activity trap that might not even be something that's feasible. So stay tuned for that. We definitely know that there's a ton of value in that information. All right, let's see. Okay, anything else? Yeah, Mark says, thanks for the Pele ads. Roger asked, why don't we see BGS pop counts? Roger, if you go back and watch this recording, it looks like maybe you jumped in later. They just don't make the information accessible, really easily accessible. It's really hard to get to the information on BGS's website. So that's why we don't have them in there yet. Let's see. No, Jason asked, do we have the ability to track print runs of sealed wax? No, because they don't publish that information. It would have to be, I'm going to stop sharing actually now, and I'll just come back over here full screen. So they don't publish that information. I wish they did. It's easier to calculate for Topps products because they tell you the print runs. They'll even tell you the print runs or the pack odds. They'll tell you the pack odds on the print run cards, which is something most companies never really did, but Topps does it. So you can kind of calculate, okay, there's this many of this other card, based on pack odds and print runs combined. You can do the math. But in general, I would say that there's sites that are out there that try to do that. There's sites that try to get that information and sort of extrapolate. One technique is just to watch breaks, watch a bunch of breaks, and you can kind of go, oh, this, Tiger Prism from Choice Prism Basketball only hits every so many boxes. So I think there's this many Tigers in existence. But in terms of like total boxes, I don't think there's a great way to do that. In general, you'd have to have some insider information. And Jeff even asked that question in on our Christmas virtual to Panini's rep. And he said they don't even tell him that. So I'm sure he was being honest, who knows, but definitely sort of secrets in the trade, something I would love to know more about. But I am going to come back over and just see. Okay, last question. Yeah, assuming it's safe, will the whole SDI team be at the national? Yeah, we're planning on it. We would love to. We definitely plan to, as long as it's safe and everything's good to go, and as long as it happens. And looks like one of my peers here is chiming in and saying the same thing. So, yes. All right. Thanks to everybody who joined. I hope this was valuable. I had a lot of fun. Again, this is kind of just a high level. It's always fun getting to hear what questions you have. And anyway, I'm just going to shut it down. And everybody have a great night. Stay safe. If you're a member, thank you for being a member. If you're an advocate, thanks for that. And I got to figure out where my Zoom went so I can shut this back down. There it is. All right. Take care, everybody. See you later.